The slap sounded louder than the music. It cracked through the microphone on the podium, ran across the ballroom speakers, and froze 600 people under the chandeliers. For 3 seconds nobody moved. My husband, Andrew Kessler, stood in front of me with his hand still half raised. His face was red from champagne and anger. My lip had split against my teeth. I could taste blood. Across the stage, his mother, Vanessa Kessler, watched me with a champagne glass in her hand. Then she smiled. Not a shocked smile. Not a nervous one. A small satisfied smile. Like she had been waiting 3 years to see me break in front of her guests. I pressed my tongue against the cut on my lip and looked at the room. 600 charity donors. Hospital board members. Lawyers. Judges. Business owners. Women in silk dresses. Men in black suits. Nobody stepped between us. Not one person. And as Vanessa lifted her glass higher, I thought only one thing. You should have asked who raised me before you tried to destroy me. Because 48 hours later, Andrew would be standing before a judge. Vanessa would lose the foundation she had built like a throne. And I would be sitting in my mother's kitchen, eating the same stuffed cabbage rolls Vanessa once called poor people food. But that night did not begin with the slap. It began 3 years earlier with a wedding ring I should have looked at more carefully. My name is Clara Bennett. I was 33 years old when my marriage ended in front of 600 people. I grew up in Akron, Ohio, in a small apartment above a laundromat. 1 bedroom. Thin walls. A kitchen window that looked straight into a brick wall. My mother, Elena Novak, worked until her feet swelled inside her shoes, then came home and studied law books at the same table where I did my homework. She had come from Romania with 2 suitcases for $100, and a voice people liked to underestimate. By day, she worked as a court interpreter. By night, she went to law school. I remember waking up at 2 in the morning and seeing the kitchen light still on. Her glasses would be low on her nose. Her hair would be pinned back. One hand on a textbook, the other around a coffee mug gone cold. She never taught me to be loud. She taught me to watch. When I cried, she never rushed to comfort me with soft lies. She would hand me a tissue and say, "Tears are information, Clara. Now tell me what they are telling you." I hated that as a child. I understood it as a woman. I earned a scholarship, finished college without debt, and built a career in healthcare compliance. My job was simple on paper and dangerous in practice. I reviewed records. I checked numbers. I found the places where people thought nobody would look. Then I met Andrew Kessler at a hospital fundraiser. He was handsome in an easy way. Polished but not cold. He remembered small things. He asked about my work like it mattered. He brought me coffee when I stayed late. He laughed softly, listened carefully, and made me believe he had escaped the worst parts of his family. 6 months later, he proposed on a bench in German village with a ring that flashed under the streetlights. I said yes before I understood that I was not marrying one man. I was marrying a whole system. The first warning came the next morning. Andrew said, "Mom wants to see the ring." I laughed because I thought he was joking. He was not. Vanessa Kessler entered our wedding plans like a woman taking over a company she already owned. She chose the country club. She changed the flowers. She removed 3 of my friends from the guest list because, in her words, the room needs balance. When I asked if my mother's stuffed cabbage rolls could be added to the appetizer table, Vanessa looked at me as if I had placed dirt on her carpet. "That might confuse the caterer," she said. Andrew squeezed my hand under the table. "It's just food, Clara," he whispered. So I let it go. That became the pattern. I let the first insult go because it was small. Then the next because it was dressed as advice. Then the next because Andrew said his mother didn't mean it like that. By the time I noticed how much of myself I had swallowed, I could barely hear my own voice inside that family. Vanessa had been widowed for 21 years. Her husband, Harold Kessler, had left behind money, a building supply company, and a trust that kept Andrew and his sister Paige comfortable enough to never ask where comfort came from. Vanessa controlled all of it. She called it stewardship. Everyone else called it survival. Andrew received his salary from the family company and a monthly payment from the trust. His house, his car, his vacations, even the donations he made in his own name, all passed through Vanessa's approval. First, I thought he hated it. Later, I realized he was afraid to live without it. The first Thanksgiving after our wedding, I brought my mother's stuffed cabbage rolls to Vanessa's house. I had spent the whole morning cooking them. I carried the glass dish in both hands like an offering. The dining room was already set. Silverware lined up like soldiers. Crystal glasses. White candles. A turkey so perfect it looked staged. I placed my dish near the center. Vanessa lifted the foil. She stared. Then she lowered it again and looked down the table at Andrew, Paige, and 2 cousins. "She is not one of us," she said. No anger. No raised voice. Just a fact placed gently on the table. Paige laughed first. Andrew looked at his plate. That hurt more than the laughter. I picked up the dish and carried it back to the kitchen. Nobody followed. Nobody said my name. I stood beside the trash can for a long moment with the warm glass burning my palms. Then I walked out to my car, sat behind the wheel, and held the steering wheel until my fingers stopped shaking. I did not cry. I could hear my mother's voice. Tears are information. So I gathered information. That night after Andrew fell asleep, I opened my laptop and made a folder. I named it Insurance. I did not know yet what I was protecting myself from. I only knew Vanessa Kessler did not make mistakes by accident. She tested boundaries, then built fences where nobody pushed back. The second year of marriage showed me what Andrew had chosen. We wanted to buy a house. I found a smaller place we could afford together. 2 bedrooms. A small yard. Nothing grand but ours. Andrew barely looked at the listing. "Mom already knows a realtor," he said. By the end of the week, Vanessa had chosen a 4-bedroom colonial in Westlake, negotiated the mortgage, and put her name on the paperwork just to help. When I objected, Andrew's face closed. "Why do you always make things hard?" he asked. "I'm asking for a home with my husband," I said. "Not a house your mother can unlock whenever she wants." He stared at me like I had insulted the woman who fed him. "That's my mother. I'm your wife." He said nothing. A few months later, his phone buzzed during dinner. 3 short vibrations. He tilted the screen away too quickly. But I saw the group name before it disappeared. Real Kesslers. For members. Vanessa. Andrew. Paige. Cousin Rachel. Not me. That night, I waited until Andrew was asleep. His phone was on the nightstand. His passcode was his father's birthday. He had never changed it because the Kesslers believed nothing bad could happen inside their own walls. I opened the chat. The first photo I saw was me at brunch, wearing a blue dress I had bought on clearance. Paige had written, "Discount wife energy." Vanessa replied with a laughing emoji. Andrew had sent one too. I scrolled. Message after message. My clothes. My mother's accent. My apartment. My job. My food. My desperate need to belong. Vanessa wrote, "Clara does not understand real family." Andrew replied, "I know." 2 words. No joke. No emoji. Just agreement. I took screenshots until my hands felt numb. I sent them to my laptop. I saved all of them in the insurance folder. Then I put his phone back exactly where it had been. I lay beside him in the dark while he slept with his back turned to me, breathing peacefully after laughing at me with the people I had tried so hard to love. That was the night something inside me went quiet. Not dead. Quiet. I opened a separate savings account. I increased my retirement contributions. I stayed late at work and built contacts outside the Kessler name. I documented everything that crossed the line. Dates. Messages. Bank records I had legal access to. Emails. Photos. I was not planning revenge. I was building a door. The Mother's Day charity gala arrived in the 3rd year. For Vanessa, it was not an event. It was her crown. Every spring, she hosted 600 guests at Briarwood Country Club to raise money for a children's hospital wing. Her face appeared on the program. Her speech closed the evening. Local politicians smiled beside her for photos. Business owners wrote checks and called her generous. I had always found something strange about the way Vanessa performed kindness. She gave money in public and cruelty in private. That year, Paige assigned me to volunteer duty. "Door greeting," she said with her sugar-sharp smile. "You're so good with strangers." Vanessa approved my name tag. First name only. Clara. No Kessler. When the seating chart came through email, I found my place at table 47, in the back corner, near the service entrance behind a pillar. Andrew was at table 1 beside his mother. I called him immediately. "Why am I at the back of the room?" He sighed like I had interrupted something important. "It's Mom's event. I'm your wife. You're making this about you again." There it was. Again. A word people use when they want your pain to sound like a habit. I hung up before I said something I could not take back. 2 weeks before the gala, Vanessa asked me to help organize donor cards in her home office. She liked giving me small jobs. Visible enough to remind me I was useful. Low enough to remind me I was not equal. While I stacked envelopes, a folder sat open on her desk. Foundation records. I did not touch it. I did not take a picture. I only looked. Donations received that year. $340,000. Expenses filed. $295,000. Vendor payments listed under gala services. That number stayed in my mind because numbers always do when they do not feel right. Later that evening, I passed the donation board at Briarwood during a planning meeting. The blue LED screen flashed the public total. $280,000. I stopped walking. $340,000 received. $280,000 displayed. A $60,000 silence. In my line of work, silence like that is never empty. It is hiding something. Paige gave me access to the donor database the next day after I offered to help with thank you cards. She sent the login without thinking twice. That night, while Andrew slept upstairs, I sat at the kitchen table and opened the records. The database was clean. Too clean. Donations matched the folder. $340,000. Then I checked vendor payments. 2 companies had received repeated payments over 3 years for flowers and audiovisual services. Their invoices were small, neat, and always just below the amount that required outside review. One company had no business registration. The other listed an address that belonged to a closed dry cleaner. Total payments, $58,000. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen. Vanessa Kessler had built her kingdom on charity, and someone had been quietly draining it. I printed nothing from Andrew's house. I was careful. I copied dates, amounts, vendor names, addresses, and public records. I built a clean report the way I would at work. Sourced, timed, organized. Then I saved it to a drive and mailed a copy to my mother. No explanation. Just the report. She called me the next morning. Her voice was calm. "Clara," she said, "what do you want?" I stood in the laundry room with the dryer humming beside me. "I want to leave," I said. "But I want to leave standing up." There was a pause. Then she said, "Then do not warn them. Let them show the room who they are." 5 days before the gala, I heard Paige and Vanessa talking in the pantry. I was reaching for a glass when Paige's voice floated through the half-open door. "You should make the toast about real mothers," she said. "The kind who raise children with proper values." Vanessa laughed softly. "I already wrote it. And if Clara reacts? Then everyone will finally see what I've been saying for 3 years." I set the glass down without a sound. So that was the plan. They were not just seating me in the back. They were building a stage for my humiliation. They wanted tears. A scene. Proof. I went upstairs, took my mother's white handkerchief from my drawer, and folded it into the pocket of my navy dress. She had given it to me on my wedding day. Her name was stitched in pale blue thread along the corner. Elena. At the time she had pressed it into my palm and said, "Wipe your tears, then make your plan." I had thought she meant happy tears. On the night of the gala, Briarwood glowed like a palace. Crystal chandeliers. White roses. Gold table numbers. A stage at the front with Vanessa's name printed on the program in elegant script. I arrived in flats because I would be standing at the entrance for 90 minutes. Paige handed me my name tag. Clara. Nothing else. I clipped it to my dress. For the next hour and a half, I greeted every guest who entered. The mayor, the hospital board chair, lawyers, donors, women who smelled like perfume and money. Some smiled kindly. Some looked through me. Every single one passed the donation board glowing in the lobby. $280,000. I took one photo. Time-stamped. Geotagged. Then I sent it to my mother. Dinner began at 7:30. I sat at table 47 with strangers who were kinder to me in 10 minutes than the Kesslers had been in 3 years. A retired teacher named Mrs. Aldrich sat nearby. She asked what I did for work. When I told her compliance, she smiled. So you keep people honest. I looked toward table 1. Andrew was laughing beside his mother. I try, I said. At 8:15, Vanessa took the stage. The room settled. She held the microphone with both hands and smiled like a saint in diamonds. Happy Mother's Day, she began. Tonight we honor women who sacrifice for family. Women who know where they come from. Women who understand tradition. Applause rose warmly. Then her eyes found mine across the ballroom. But some people marry into families they do not respect, she said. They bring strange customs, strange food, and expect us to change everything for them. The room shifted. A few people laughed because they did not know yet if they were allowed to be uncomfortable. Vanessa continued. A real mother teaches loyalty. A real mother gives her child values this community can understand. Her smile sharpened. Not every child gets that. Some are raised in little apartments by women who translate other people's words and call it a career. The air left my lungs. She was talking about my mother. On Mother's Day, in front of 600 people, Mrs. Aldridge's hand touched my wrist. Dear, she whispered, are you all right? I stood. The room turned. I walked from table 47 toward the stage. No rush. No shaking. The navy fabric of my dress brushed my knees. The handkerchief pressed against my ribs. I stopped below the podium and looked up at Vanessa. My mother worked 3 jobs, I said. Then she put herself through law school. She never needed a ballroom to prove she was a good mother. She proved it by showing up every day. Vanessa's face changed instantly. Tears appeared like she had ordered them. She turned to the audience. Do you see? She cried. This is what she does. She attacks me at my own event. Andrew stood from table 1. He had been drinking. His steps were unsteady, but his anger was clear. Apologize to my mother, he said. I looked at him. Really looked. The man who once held me at 2 in the morning and whispered that his father would have liked me. The man who laughed at my humiliation in a private chat. The man who had chosen every comfort Vanessa offered and called it love. No, I said. His hand came across my face. The microphone was still on. The sound cracked through every speaker. My head turned with the force of it. My lips split. The ballroom froze. I pressed one hand to my mouth and felt blood. Vanessa did not gasp. Paige, near the bar, covered her mouth, but her eyes were bright. Andrew breathed hard like I had forced him to do it. You made me, he said. That sentence did what the slap could not. It ended him in my heart. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my mother's handkerchief. White linen. Pale blue thread. I pressed it to my lip. When I pulled it away, the blood looked almost black under the chandelier light. Then I folded it once, twice, and put it back in my pocket. I looked at the room. 600 witnesses. 3 phones raised. 1 retired teacher standing with both hands over her heart. I turned and walked out. Behind me, Vanessa's voice followed through the microphone. Let her go. She will come crawling back. The double doors opened. Cold May air hit my face. I crossed the parking lot to my car, sat inside and locked the doors. My hands were steady. My cheek burned. Blood dried at the corner of my mouth. I took out my phone. 9:17 p.m. I opened my contacts and pressed my mother's name. 2 rings. Clara. For the first time in years my voice broke. Mom, I whispered. Please come. Elena did not ask for details. She heard everything in those 2 words. Where are you? Briarwood Country Club. Parking lot. Are you hurt? I looked at my reflection in the dark window. The swelling under my eye had already begun. He hit me. 3 seconds of silence. Then my mother's voice went flat. Not angry. Ready. Do not wash your face. Do not change your clothes. Stay in your car and lock the doors. I am coming. The headlights appeared 40 minutes later. A dark blue sedan rolled into the parking lot and stopped 3 spaces from my car. My mother stepped out wearing a black coat over a simple house dress, her gray hair pulled into a low knot. She had not changed. She had not dressed for the Kesslers. She had come dressed for me. She walked to my window and tapped twice. I unlocked the door. When she opened it, cold air slipped into the car. She crouched beside me and looked at my face. Her eyes moved from the swelling under my cheekbone to the dried blood at the corner of my mouth. For 10 seconds she said nothing. Then she cupped my face with both hands. Her fingers were cold. Okay, she said. Here is what we do. Not, why did he do this? Not, how could they? Not one wasted question. First, I'm taking photos of your injuries. Second, we are going back inside for witness names. Third, you are filing a police report tonight. My throat tightened. I don't want to go back in there. You will not go back alone. She took out her phone and photographed my face from 3 angles. The flash lit the inside of the car. I blinked through it. She took one picture of the blood on the handkerchief too, still folded in my pocket. Then she held out her hand. I took it. We walked back toward Briarwood Country Club together. She did not pull me. She did not hold me up. She walked beside me like she was reminding the world I could stand. Through the glass doors the lobby still glowed. The donation board kept changing names and numbers in blue light. $280,000. My mother saw me look at it. That is the number, she asked. Yes. And the records show more? $340,000. She nodded once. Good. Only my mother could call a missing $60,000 good. Not because it was good. Because it was useful. The ballroom doors opened and the sound spilled out. Music. Laughter. Forks against plates. The party had continued without me. That hurt in a quiet way. I had walked out bleeding, and the room had gone back to dessert. Then people began to notice. First the tables near the entrance. Then the bar. Then the stage. The conversations thinned row by row, until the music sounded too loud for the room. Vanessa saw us from table 1. She stood slowly, smoothing the front of her emerald gown as if wrinkles were the real emergency. Andrew sat beside her, pale now, a glass of water in front of him. Paige hovered near the stage with a clipboard pressed against her chest. Vanessa crossed the floor. Clara, she said, her voice polished for the guests around her. If you came back to apologize, we can do this privately. You have embarrassed yourself enough tonight. My mother stepped forward. Mrs. Kessler, my name is Elena Novak. I am here because your son struck my daughter in this room less than an hour ago. The band stopped. The singer lowered the microphone. Vanessa's smile stiffened. This is a family matter. No, my mother said. Battery is not a family matter. The word landed hard. Battery. Not a misunderstanding. Not a scene. Not drama. A crime. Andrew stood too fast and knocked his water glass sideways. It rolled across the white tablecloth and fell into his lap. Clara, he said. Let's just go home and talk. I looked at him. Home. He still thought that word belonged to him. I'm not going home with you. His mouth opened but no sound came out. Vanessa grabbed his arm. Do you see what she is doing? She said louder now. She brought her mother here to attack us on Mother's Day. My mother turned her head slightly. She brought evidence, she said. I brought a car. A few people near the front shifted in their chairs. Mrs. Aldrich, the retired teacher from my table, stood near the side wall. Her face was pale but her eyes were clear. She raised her hand just enough for me to see her. I saw it, she said. I will give my name. Vanessa's eyes snapped toward her. No one asked you. I'm answering anyway, Mrs. Aldrich said. That was the first crack in the room. Then another woman stood. I recognized her as the county clerk's wife. Her phone was still in her hand. I recorded the sound, she said quietly. Not the whole thing, but enough. Andrew looked at Vanessa. For the first time that night he looked frightened. Not sorry. Frightened. There is a difference. Vanessa's voice dropped into something sharp and private. Do not say anything, Andrew. But the microphone on the podium was still live. Her warning came through the speakers. Every table heard it. My mother glanced at the podium, then back at Vanessa. That was good advice, she said. He should follow it until the police arrive. Vanessa went still. The police? Yes, my mother said. Clara is filing a report. Andrew stepped toward me. Clara, please. I held up one hand. He stopped. It was the first time he had stopped because I asked him to. I reached into my bag and pulled out the small notebook where I had written the key details from the foundation report. I did not wave it. I did not make a speech. I simply opened it. Before we leave, I said, there is something else your guests deserve to know. Vanessa's face changed. She knew. Not exactly what I had, but she knew the ground under her was moving. Clara, she said, careful now. Do not do this. I looked past her to the blue glow in the lobby. The donor board says this gala raised $280,000. The foundation records show $340,000 received this year. The room went silent in a different way. The slap had shocked them. The money made them listen. I continued. There are also repeated payments to 2 vendors that do not appear to exist. One has no active business filing. The other lists an address that belongs to a closed dry cleaner. The total is almost $58,000 over 3 years. Paige's clipboard slipped from her hand and hit the floor. That sound was small, but everyone heard it. Vanessa stared at me like she had never seen me before. You went through my records? I was a volunteer, I said. Paige gave me the database password. Every face turned toward Paige. Her mouth opened and closed. I thought she was doing thank you cards, she said. My mother looked at her. That is why passwords matter. A short, nervous laugh came from somewhere in the back, then died quickly. Vanessa's hand tightened around Andrew's sleeve. You are lying, she said. I did not answer right away. That was something my mother had taught me too. A lie does not always deserve a quick response. Sometimes silence lets it show its own shape. Then I said, the report has already been copied and sent outside this house. Vanessa stepped back as if I had slapped her. I had not. I never needed to. A man from table 3 stood. He was broad-shouldered with gray hair and a calm voice. I'm Sergeant Hale, he said. Off duty. Would you like me to call this in? I looked at my mother. She nodded. Then I looked at him. Yes, please. Vanessa turned to the room, and all her training disappeared. No soft tears. No charity smile. No wounded mother act. Only fear. She is doing this because she never belonged here, Vanessa said. Her voice climbed higher with every word. She came from nothing. Her mother came from nothing. And now they want to tear down everything Harold built. My mother did not move. My daughter did not hit anyone, she said. Your son did. Start there. Andrew whispered. Mom, stop. But Vanessa could not stop. That was the thing about control. Once it starts slipping, the person holding it often grabs harder at the wrong things. She trapped you, Vanessa told him. She planned all of this. I looked at Andrew. I wanted him to become the man I had once imagined. Just once. Even then. Even with blood on my lip and his handprint warming my face. But he only looked at the floor. A police officer arrived 12 minutes later. Officer Morales walked in with a body camera on his chest and no interest in rich people's panic. Sergeant Hale met him near the doors and spoke quietly. Mrs. Aldridge walked over too and gave her name before anyone asked. Then Officer Morales came to me. Ma'am, are you the complainant? Yes. He photographed my face. He asked simple questions. Name, address, relationship. What happened? Did I feel safe leaving with my husband? No, I said. Andrew flinched. Officer Morales turned to him. "Sir, did you strike your wife?" Vanessa inhaled. "Andrew," she warned. But too many people were watching now. Too many phones. Too many witnesses. Too much sound still hanging in the speakers. Andrew's shoulders dropped. "Yes," he said. The word was barely above a whisper, but it was enough. Officer Morales asked him to turn around. The handcuffs clicked shut. That sound was smaller than the slap, but it traveled farther. Andrew looked back at me as the officer led him toward the doors. His face had finally cracked. "Clara," he said. "I'm sorry. I wanted those words once. I had waited years for them. But some apologies arrive after the damage has already packed its bags and left." I said nothing. Vanessa lunged after him, but Sergeant Hale stepped in front of her. "Ma'am," he said. "Let the officer do his job." She looked at me then. Her eyes were wet, but not with grief. With rage. "This is your fault." "No," I said. "This is what happens when the room finally sees what the house has been hiding." My mother touched my arm. "We're done here." We walked out together. Past the stage. Past table 1. Past the fallen clipboard. Past the blue donation board still glowing with the wrong number. Outside, the air felt different. Not softer. Cleaner. At the police station, I gave my statement under fluorescent lights. My mother sat beside me in a plastic chair. She did not speak for me. She did not correct me. She only sat there, hands folded in her lap, steady as stone. When the report was finished, I signed my name in blue ink. Clara Bennett. Not Kessler. Bennett. I had not used that name in years. Felt like unlocking a door. The next morning, I called the divorce attorney I had quietly consulted months earlier. Her name was Janet Pierce, and she did not sound surprised to hear from me. "I have the screenshots," I told her. "The group chat. The seating chart. The foundation notes. The police report." "Good," she said. "Then we move cleanly." Cleanly did not mean painlessly. It meant no begging. No secret meetings where Andrew cried and promised to change while Vanessa waited in the next room. No returning to that house to collect dishes while Paige watched from the hallway. My mother and Janet came with me for my belongings. I took my clothes, my work files, my books, the framed photo of my college graduation, and the small wooden box where I kept my fatherless childhood things. I left the wedding china. I left the crystal glasses. I left the 4-bedroom colonial Vanessa had chosen. Before walking out, I placed Andrew's house key on the kitchen counter. Not thrown. Not slammed. Placed. There is power in doing something calmly when everyone expects you to fall apart. Andrew accepted a plea deal weeks later. Community service. Anger management. A restraining order. The kind of consequence rich families call embarrassing because they cannot call it unfair. The divorce moved faster than Vanessa wanted. Her name on the house made the property messy, but I did not fight for it. I did not want walls that had heard me shrink. I did not want a yard chosen by a woman who never wanted me inside the gate. I kept my savings. I kept my retirement. I kept my career. And I kept every document that proved I had not imagined what they did to me. The foundation investigation came next. I sent the report to the state attorney general's office because that was not revenge. That was my job. When public donations move through fake vendors and hidden gaps, someone has to open the books. Vanessa was not led away in handcuffs. Real life does not always give you the loud ending, but the quiet ones can hurt more. The foundation was placed under independent oversight. The gala was suspended. Vanessa resigned as chair after 21 years. Her photo came down from the lobby wall. The donation board was removed. Paige lost her event position when the foundation restructured. She found work later at a smaller firm where her last name opened fewer doors. As for Andrew, he called twice from numbers I did not know. The first time I hung up as soon as I heard his voice. The second time I listened. "I should have protected you," he said. I stood in my new apartment, looking at boxes stacked beside the wall. "Yes," I said. "You should have. I was afraid of losing everything. You lost me instead." He cried then. I did not. That surprised me. For years, his tears had pulled me back toward him. I used to think his pain meant there was still a good man trapped inside. Maybe there was. But I was no longer willing to live outside the cage, waiting for him to find the key. I ended the call and blocked the number. 3 months after the gala, I moved into a one-bedroom apartment in Akron. The kitchen window looked out at a maple tree. The floors creaked. The bathroom cabinet stuck when it rained. The bedroom was small, but every inch of it belonged to me. My name was on the lease. My key opened the door. No one else's mother had a copy. I started a new job as compliance director for a healthcare nonprofit. The office was modest. The coffee was terrible. The work mattered. On my first day, my supervisor handed me a stack of files and said, "We need someone who notices what others miss." I almost smiled. I can do that. On Sundays, I went to my mother's house for dinner. She still cooked too much. The kitchen still smelled like cabbage, garlic, and warm bread. Law journals still filled the shelves even though she claimed she was retired. The coffee pot still ran late into the evening. One Sunday, she placed a dish of stuffed cabbage rolls on the table and sat across from me. No chandeliers. No seating chart. No one deciding whether we belonged. Just 2 plates, 2 forks, and a quiet room where love did not need an audience. She looked at the faint mark still fading on my cheek. "How do you feel?" she asked. I thought about the ballroom, the slap, the handkerchief, the blue number glowing in the lobby, the sound of handcuffs, Andrew's apology arriving too late, Vanessa's face when the room stopped obeying her. Then I looked around my mother's kitchen. "I can breathe," I said. She nodded, as if that was the only answer she needed. A card arrived a week later from Mrs. Aldridge. The envelope was small. Her handwriting leaned to the right. Inside, she had written only 2 lines. "Dear Clara, some lessons need a witness. I am proud I was one of yours." I pinned it to my refrigerator. For a long time, I believed endurance was proof of love. I thought if I stayed calm enough, kind enough, patient enough, the people hurting me would finally see my worth. But cruelty does not become love because you survive it. And silence does not become peace because no one is yelling. Sometimes dignity is speaking. Sometimes dignity is walking out. And sometimes dignity is sitting in a locked car with blood on your lip, calling the one person who taught you never to cry without a plan. I lost a marriage in that ballroom, but I got my life back. And for the first time in years, nobody at my table asked me to prove I belonged.